Hey, everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you are our Patreon patrons. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for supporting us.
They're
Thank
awesome.
you in multiple ways, right? You don't just support us financially, you also support us
Do you know why you're so awesome?
mentally.
There's YouTube creators across the world right now. They're all just pulling their hair out because YouTube is giving them less and less money to create their shows with.
Right.
And this isn't to become rich YouTubers. This is just to put out the show. Like, we spend a lot of money every week just putting out the show. And you guys support us so we don't have to worry every week about whether or not we're going to make enough money on YouTube, because we're not. It
Right.
just-
No,
it doesn't cut it.
There would be no way. We would have to resort to clickbait. We did like accidental clickbait the other week when
we
we
did.
put conspiracy in the title of our video.
Yeah, the Jack
Wow,
Rickard story.
if we wanted to just make a bunch of YouTube revenue,
Yeah.
we'd put conspiracy in every single title. That was amazing.
Do you know how angry some of those viewers were that they didn't get the conspiracy they wanted?
this isn't the conspiracy I wanted.
First of all, there was conspiracy. It's just they wanted more. They wanted like aliens and other stuff. Jack Rickard isn't Elon. You said he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we don't, as Jack Rickard even pointed out about that, we don't want a lot of the people
No.
that attracts.
Yeah, we got like a lot of viewers
Got
who just were angry.
A lot
and-
of crazy
Yeah.
people out there.
Yeah.
And no, we don't want the crazy people. We want you guys, because you guys are amazing, awesome.
We'd like to convert some of the crazy people or make them calm down a little bit. Like,
Sure.
enjoy life a little more. And I don't know.
I would shoot for the low hanging fruit, which are like the really nice people.
Okay.
Right. So thank you for joining us. Let's get right into the Patreon bonus stories.
Yeah, so let's start with this. This is a little news piece on the Canadian oil refineries.
This is the Marathon Oil Refinery in Detroit, Michigan. In 2014, it processed 121,000 barrels of oil a day. A little more than an hour's drive away in Sarnia, Ontario, is the Imperial Oil Refinery. The same year, it processed slightly less, 109,000 barrels a day. But here's what Imperial Oil produced more of: pollution. 10 times more fine particulate matter, 7 times more carbon monoxide, and 49 times, yes, 49 times more sulfur dioxide.
Staggering numbers, crazy.
And it's not just a one-off. In 2014, the Co-op refinery complex in Regina produced 3 times as much benzene as 2 smaller refineries in Montana put together. The same year, the Parkland Burnaby refinery in BC, then owned by Chevron, produced 9 times more sulfur dioxide than this Washington state refinery, even though it processed less oil.
What's been done about it is nothing. That's the problem.
Government data exclusively obtained by Global News and analyzed in a joint investigation with the National Observer and Toronto Star shows not just a few, but a majority of Canadian refineries are emitting far more of some key pollutants compared to the U.S. average. Data from 1999 to 2015 that's never been shared with Canadians.
It would be quite an embarrassment to Canada for this data to be made public.
Imperial Oil defends comparing refineries can be a flawed exercise, depending on the nature of processing, type of crude, and product. It also says it reduced SO2 emissions by 60% and fine particulate matter by 25% in the last 10 to 15 years. But on the whole, when you consider the US has 10 times as many refineries as Canada, you would expect total emissions to be far greater in America. But that's not the case when it comes to sulfur dioxide. Canadian refineries pollute so much of it that in 2014, 15 Canadian plants put out 62% more SO2 than 127 refineries in the US.
SO2 really irritates the lungs. When the concentrations are high in ambient air, anybody with any sort of constrictive lung disease is going to respond to that SO2.
To reach the US midpoint, 11 out of 15 Canadian refineries would require a 50% or more reduction in nitrogen oxides. 9 out of 15 plants would have to do the same for carbon monoxide. In Sarnia, Ontario, home to 3 refineries, Jason Simon believes the pollution is enough to make his asthma flare up.
I'm just breathing in all that crap.
Simon says when he moved away to play in the NHL, his breathing improved, but when he returned, so did the asthma.
For no reason at all, I'll have troubles breathing and I'll have to use an inhaler to open up my lungs.
But Canadian refineries aren't breaking any federal laws.
Canadian facilities, are in full compliance with their annual emission caps established by the relevant regulatory authority.
That's because no federal cap exists, only a patchwork of provincial and municipal regulations. In 2001, Canadian politicians and stakeholders did try to come up with one. They came together to work toward convergence with the U.S. by 2015. But discussions went nowhere. 10 years after that, a second working group tried again. But a year later, there was an impasse at deadline.
The problem was that some of the positions were simply too far apart.
And so once again, Canada didn't regulate the industry.
Someone has to tell them it's a priority now. It's like, yeah, do it.
From 2002 to 2016, Canadian refineries did reduce most key pollutants by 40 to 50%. But the U.S. has been even more aggressive, cracking down hard on companies that don't comply with its federal Clean Air Act.
Admittedly, on the convergence objective, we haven't done so well.
The Canadian Fuels Association says achieving convergence could simply cost too much.
It's not a lot to ask to protect local communities from pollutants that harm their health.
The federal government has drafted stricter regulations for one specific set of pollutants called volatile organic compounds, and it will affect refineries once introduced. But on the issue of having a cap on all refinery emissions, as has been discussed for years, Environment Canada simply skipped over our question. Carolyn Jarvis, Global News, Toronto.
That was some good journalism.
It was very good
Can I
journalism.
just say, I have not...
That's Canadian
it's
journalism.
Canadian journalism. I have not seen that level of journalism.
Because there was stuff that caught your attention, but it wasn't over the top, like dong dong dong.
Right. And they didn't put two people in a room and just start having them yell at each other.
But the only thing I don't like about that kind of journalism, when they showed the woman in the beginning who gave like a little voiceover, she was like, and that's really terrible. And then they cut away, but you don't know who she is until like 2 minutes later.
True.
I wish there was like a rule in journalism where it's like, just tell us immediately who she is.
Yeah.
But anyway, the takeaway from this story is that I always thought that Canada was better at everything.
Right.
I mean, everything. They're nicer. They're awesome people.
I thought the only downside was the winter. I thought that that was the only thing.
Right. I'm like, why don't I live there? Oh,
Right.
It's the winter.
Right.
Right. Because it's already cold enough here.
I mean, we already live in a place where we wouldn't really be able to tell the difference.
I mean, I went to Quebec once when it was the middle of winter, and I brought like a parka, and it was still so freaking cold. Like, I'm used to cold.
Well, I mean, that's
This
Quebec.
was-
You could go to Montreal. You could go to Toronto. Toronto's just about the same latitude as that. Oh, it's right on the Great Lakes. Huh?
Yeah. But anyway,
I haven't been there
so,
in winter.
I didn't know that you guys had no real federal regulations about the pollution coming out of oil refineries. I just assumed you had really good. But
Right.
but here's the takeaway. 2 decades ago, when they realized this and people were like upset about it, and they're like, let's figure something out. The oil companies are like, yeah, let's not.
No.
How about no?
Oh, we will not cooperate.
Let's do this. Let's do 10 years of sitting around in committees. And I'm sure this must have been so much fun for the committee. And then go at the end, oh, you know what? We can't agree. Then let's do it again.
And can I just say, there was definitely people who cared that were in that committee meeting.
Yeah. Because
who
they're
were-
retired now and they're speaking out against it.
Right. But they were in those meetings, right? And they were butting their heads with, the oil companies just found people that would just be obtuse the whole time and just being like, blah, 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 I found a little point, blah, 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 right? And they would just slow them down. And then they finally thought that they were going to get to this point where they were going to enact regulation about it, and then it didn't happen.
Right.
Like, it's just so maddening for anyone who cares to be met with like complete apathy and then being overpowered by these companies.
And here's the thing. We hear this all the time. Government's horrible. We need less government, not more. Less regulation, more business. Okay, wait a minute.
Right.
No.
Right.
You can't have businesses that don't regulate themselves. This is how they do it. I mean, it'd be great if we lived in a perfect world where the oil refineries are like, let's have the best environmental regulations ever.
Right. Like the idea.
But they don't.
The idea would be that like there's two competing ice cream shops and we're not going to regulate them at all. And so one place washes their spoons and the other place doesn't. And so people will find out, hey, you're not washing your spoons. I'm not going to your ice cream shop. And then that little cell of the free market thing just gets set aside and you say, see? That's what deregulating would be.
But here's the thing. We don't have it within our power to, oh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go measure the air quality coming out of the stack on that. We don't have that ability.
Right.
We need government to do
Right,
that.
right, exactly. You can't just have people all independently saying, I measured the air quality today.
Right.
And you know what? I'm going to move. Right. That's not something that just everyone is able to do. That's why we have government, is to regulate that kind of thing. Because otherwise, we wouldn't go to the place that didn't wash their spoons. But like,
the other thing that makes me really mad is that if this was what, say, solar industry or electric car industry was doing and we found out about it, it'd be like, we can never have solar again. That's the end of that. You had your days. Pack it up, solar. You're out of here.
you're polluting our land. What's going on with that?
But we learn about this, right, from news stories,
Yep.
and we go, guess that's the way it
Oh,
is.
that sucks. That sucks.
why
super
don't
bad.
why don't we go get some pitchforks and some torches and run them out of town? I mean,
Right.
why do we allow this?
Right. Especially when the doing it the right way seems to not work.
Right.
When it's like, oh, it didn't seem to work, so now we made an expose about something that's been happening for the last 20 years. It's like, how about why was this not frontline news? Why wasn't everyone mad about this?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Because we're all lemmings.
I guess so.
We're taught, our whole educational system is taught so that we...
Oh, be a lemming.
Yes.
Don't ask questions.
Raise your hand.
Raise
Don't
your
speak
hand.
out. You're too loud.
I am the teacher.
Yeah. All right. So Ford released this video showing off their upcoming Mustang-influenced BEV driving through the snow at Smithers Winter Test Center in Brimley, Michigan. I'm sorry. Yes, you have a question? You have to stay quiet till I call on you. Are you quiet? Okay, I'm calling on you now.
It said Mustang influenced.
Yes. Can't you see the influence there?
That's an SUV. That's way taller than a Mustang.
Yes.
That's not a Mustang.
Very good.
What? Why are you saying that? What? Okay, wait a minute. So
Okay, picture your Ford. You're sitting around the board meeting, and you're like, okay, what do we say about this new electric SUV that's coming out? How do we put our little Ford Flare on it? What do we own the rights to? Ford Focus. Yes, we do own the rights to Ford Focus. Should we say Ford Focused influence?
well, no.
No.
The Focus was a small car, so you'd say the
let's-
Ford,
Escort.
the
Ford Taurus.
the Ford Flex,
The Ford.
right? Because the Flex is an SUV.
Yes.
Ford Flex inspired, and everyone would go. I don't want to see that. Or the Ford Edge. I mean,
They've only got a couple things left in their pocket. Or F-150, will that work? Or Mustang. That's
right.
all we got.
And
left.
that's the only two things that they're electrifying.
left, right.
Is an inspired. They know that they can't sell an electric Mustang. That will not fly. But if they sell an SUV, it better be inspired by one of the things that they're known for, which is Mustang.
Cool. Because they claim that this is going to compete head-to-head with the Tesla Model Y. And we can't see a whole lot of it because it's heavily camouflaged. But you know what? I am excited that Ford is trying to educate its consumers about winter battery range and how electric cars handle great in winter conditions. Oh, I'm sorry. You have another question,
yes,
sir?
I have another question. This was done in Brimley, Michigan.
Yep.
It's currently September.
Yep. Oh, you're wondering how they got it to
not-
snow in Brimley in September.
So this was done. This was shot 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing it now.
Yeah. Well, because marketing for these big companies is a multi-year affair. It's not something you do overnight. We're going to record this a year earlier.
Like, I can
release it
understand.
next year.
I can understand
For
if
all
this
we
was
know,
down
this
in
was recorded
Chile.
2 years ago. I don't know.
I mean, but that's good news. I mean, that's at least positive for me because that means that they've been working on it longer than I expected them to.
Exactly. I mean, this has a targeted range of 300 miles, and it's due out in the fall of 2020. So they're getting ready because they know that the questions will be, oh, wait, if I buy this in the fall, winter's coming.
Right.
Will it work in
Won't
winter?
work in the winter.
And so they're, educating.
I see.
And speaking of Ford,
Yeah.
since you're going to throw a lot of money around if you're Ford, you might as well make one of these. Check this out.
What we're trying to do with the simulator is give the experience of what an electric vehicle can be.
All set to switch?
An electric vehicle has amazing acceleration. People instantly can feel the difference between a normal vehicle and an EV.
That was awesome. We are at Groton Raceway. We're coming out of the simulator world into the prototype stage.
You want it in
sure we have that driving fun in the vehicle and freedom on the track. It has great directional control, tremendous feedback.
Good ride, great steering, great track performance.
A battery electric vehicle can totally deliver the excitement on the road.
I don't think anyone's expecting an electric vehicle that'll be this good to drive.
So, okay.
Oh, you have another question. You have so many questions today.
Why?
Why?
Why are they in a simulator? Why? We want to show how
I'm
cool
gonna tell you
electric
why.
cars are. So here's a simulator.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. It's going to make perfect sense in a second. Ready?
Yes.
Because they don't have one. They don't have an electric car. The only thing they could do, and I think there was a guy. I think there was a guy who said, "Hey, could we just get a Tesla?" And they were like, "You're fired.
Shut up,
Get
you're
out of here."
fired.
And then there was someone else. We could make a simulator.
All right, fine. We'll go with
Right.
your idea. It's good. That's a much better idea.
Yeah. So do you see how stupid these companies are? They made a simulator. Now, how many? Let me ask you this question. You're thinking of buying their new Ford, whatchamacallit, that they're going to have,
It's
right?
gonna be the what's
the Cold Mustang, the Fusion Mustang.
we call it a Colt.
The Colt. Okay.
It's a horse, right? Type of horse.
Sure.
Colt.
So
the mare.
you're thinking of buying the Colt, and
And it's a gun too, which is even better.
are you gonna go down to your local Ford dealer and get in the Ford simulator?
In the simulator.
And can you choose different cars when you're in there? Can you be like, oh wait, let me check out a
Of
Ford
course
Focus?
you could. It's a simulator. That's why I'm so jealous. They were like, "Do you want to test an electric car?" And they were like, "Yeah, I do."
Look, if we tried to make this up, we couldn't have done it. We would have tried, and you would have been like,
You really think they would have put people in a simulator?
I don't buy it, Zach and Jesse.
To tell
Ford
them-
simulator? No, can't be true. Yeah, it's true.
What? And I'm sorry. Okay, like you would need a better simulator than that to do the G-forces.
Yeah.
There's no
Why don't-
amount of
You know a cheaper way? It's just come up with your damn car, put it on the dealer lot, and let people test drive it.
right, or just have like a crap, like just a box.
I'll bet you why they're doing the simulator. I bet the dealers are going to revolt like crazy against BEVs on their lots, and so Ford knows that they don't know how to sell the damn thing. It's a crap show for
that's a
Ford.
crappy job.
They're in trouble. We haven't mentioned dealerships in a while.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
But even if Ford can do this, even if they can come up with a cool electric car with good range, good price, all that, now they have to convince their dealers to sell it.
What they would have to do
Is
find components in the car that they could make intentionally crappy.
Yes.
Or like put some kind of a timer
Yes,
on,
yeah.
and then it would go clink, and
Yep.
then it would stop working, and
Yep.
you'd have to call the dealer immediately and be like, "My car isn't working."
I'm not
and they'd
even
be like,
joking.
"Oh, it's the timing belt."
they're
and you're like-
probably doing that right now.
and they're like, "The timing belt, yeah, time's down to when you want the car to break. That's the timing belt. Anything else we can help you with? Maybe you need an oil change."
All right, check out this next story. You're not going to believe this one either.
Okay.
This is the Lamborghini Sion, which means flash or lightning. It's from Italian. It's from the Bolognese.
Sick.
And it denotes the first electrification of a Lamborghini production car and confirms our strong connection to the territory in which we operate.
Nice.
This makes the Sion the fastest accelerating Lamborghini ever.
Yes.
Get this. You ready?
Yes.
Achieving a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour in less than 2.8 seconds.
Do you say 2.8?
Yep.
2.8 seconds. That's slower than a Model S.
That's slower than a Model S.
Why?
Why?
Why is it slower than a Model S?
Well, probably because it costs less than a Model S, right? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
But I mean, it looks like that. It can't cost less than a Model S.
Oh, you know what? It doesn't cost less than a Model S.
Well, how much is it going to cost?
$3.6 million. Oh, they're only making 63 of them. And has a V12 engine. So you probably...
You said it was electric.
It is. It's got...
V12 means 12 pistons.
Right.
You said it was electric.
It's electrified. They've got, as they say here, the electric system with the supercapacitor and e-motor weighs only 34 kilograms. Thus, it delivers a remarkable weight-to-power ratio of 1 kilogram per horsepower.
That's 34 horsepower electric.
So that's like a big
system.
ride-on lawnmower. They put that little motor in there with a little supercapacitor.
It's bigger than a lawnmower.
No, like a ride-on lawnmower. You know,
It's bigger than that. They have like 3 horsepower. So this is like a
3. No, what are you talking
This is
about?
like a
My snowblower
motorcycle?
has 7. and that's a push. When you get the sit-on ones, those are like up in the 30 horsepower range.
Oh, okay.
So that's what they stuck in this car. Also, they could try and get a better 0 to 60 time, which obviously they didn't get. So here's my question. Here's my bigger question. I've got millions of dollars laying around, right? I find some under my bed one night, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go buy a fancy car.
Right.
I want to buy something that's really cool looking and can just blast anybody off the line.
Right.
Well, here you go. Here, $3.6 million. What can I get for that?
Well, let's see. You could get...
What about that one over there, that Lamborghini, huh? What about that?
Sure, but it's not the fastest one.
But I'm paying you $3.6 million.
Yeah,
all right.
It costs $3.6
all
million.
All right. I'm gonna go down to the Tesla store with this. What
Right.
can I get for that? What can I get for $3.6 million?
You could get a car that goes 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds or 2.1. You know, it
Perfect.
depends.
I'll get that one. $3.6 million.
You could get.
Well, can I afford it?
You could get like 35. I mean, it's just you could have a fleet. You and all your friends.
One for every day of the month.
All your friends could have a Model S P100D ludicrous Model S, and you could smoke this thing.
Wow.
All of your friends could smoke this thing at the same time.
Okay, so that's the thing. Next time you see this, you're going to see this somewhere, right? Outside of a restaurant.
Not. There's going to be only 63 in the world. And guess where they're all going to be?
Yes, but we have a lot of viewers.
Guess where they're all going to be?
Saudi Arabia.
Most of them, yes. And they're all going to be in garages.
Okay,
and the ones in Saudi Arabia are going to get crashed the first day they buy them.
Okay. But when you do see one of these sometime in your life, I want you to go up to the owner and go, oh my God, it's such a beautiful car. You could have bought a Model S for all your friends for the same price as this car. You're
It's so true. I mean, look, it's good that... No, it's not. I mean, if it were electric and they got 2.8, I'd be like, wow, they got 2.8. It looks like a Lamborghini.
They've been in business forever. They spend all their resources to try and get this thing to go fast. That's the only point to it. The noise and the fast. I know it looks sleek and all that, but the noise and the fast, that's what they, right? It's not for comfort. It's not for luggage storage. It's not for cup holders. True. It's all for that. And they can't do it. And yet they're still going down that same path. They're still like, well, let's somehow keep the big engine. We can put some electricity in there somewhere, but keep the big engine. It's so dumb.
They could have done a bigger electrical...
Why didn't they go the other way? Why didn't they put a 34 horsepower little, motor in there, engine in there, and then put...
That's what powers the lights.
Exactly.
No. I mean, yeah, they could have definitely gone like the Formula One route and had a very powerful turbo supercharged engine, and then... powered the supercharger and the wheel motor with the electric battery, thing. That's what LaFerrari did with their hybrid.
Right.
It still doesn't have the acceleration because it's just. I mean, look, it's a high speed kind of car.
Here's what I want to know.
Yeah,
you're buying the car. You know the speed is stated at 2.8 seconds. So then you say to the dealer, I'm not going to be able to beat most cars off the line with this, like a Tesla.
And the dealer says, listen to me, kid.
All right.
It doesn't matter about the 0 to 60 time.
No?
It matters about the 60 to 150 mile an hour time, which is...
So Jack Nicholson is selling these now? That's great.
It's a car for psychopaths. If you really want to use the whole thing, you have to be going... You're either on a track, and I hope to God that you're on a track. I hope that you're on some kind of airstrip where they've cleared the runway, and
that's not where
you're not gonna... Or you're going to be on the highway going 150 miles an hour, and it's going to blow by someone. The guy's going to be a little forward focused. He's going to get it blown off the road, and they're going to go like, what the hell was that? Because that's the whole point of these cars is not the off the line, right? It's not a car that you drive to go around town. It's a car that you drive to
You're a good
to
Lamborghini
play with
salesman.
Death. Right? It's just so that you can
I
look
like that.
death right in the face and be like,
that.
I'm crazy. Right? That's the only reason you'd buy this car. Is to
Lamborghini.
just be like,
call him up. He can sell some cars.
that's the whole point.
Okay.
It's not the 0 to 60. And that's the cool thing about the Model S is most people are not psychopaths.
Right.
And they do not need to go 180 miles an hour to feel something.
Right.
Right? The 0 to 60 time of any Tesla on the road, right? I have the second cheapest Tesla you can buy.
Yeah.
And it's more car than I need.
Yeah.
and it makes me happy.
As shown by the number of tires that you need to buy.
I have worn out the rear tires. I should have done a tire rotation a little earlier.
Yeah, but you didn't.
But you live and you learn, you know?
This is CNN meteorologist Chad Myers, and he used to question data behind climate change. See what he has to say.
I was once a climate change skeptic. I get it. Years ago, I didn't think the world's climate would actually change due to global warming gases. I was convinced that at some point the Earth would reach a greenhouse gas equilibrium, where the ocean and plant life would absorb the excess CO2 that humans produced. This would acidify the ocean, kill the coral reefs, and destroy the ocean food chain, but leave the climate intact. Then in 2013, CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere passed 400 parts per million. That's when I knew the oceans and the plants couldn't keep up the demand we were placing on them. There would be no equilibrium, and the climate would change first. So I went out to learn as much as I could about these climate-changing gases, the science, the facts, and the myths. When you sort the facts from the fiction, you may see things as I do now.
Okay, now what I love about this is that it is short and it is sweet. And what I think this is useful for, we get a lot of emails and messages from people who are like, what can I say to my uncle who doesn't believe in climate change, Zach and Jesse? And I'm always like trying to write an email to explain it. This is pretty powerful because this guy, Chad Myers, he's a meteorologist. He's been on CNN. Probably most people in this country have seen him on the show doing the weather. And he says, I thought the Earth could take care of the extra carbon dioxide. Of course, I thought it would just balance out. But when it hit 400 and it hadn't, I was like, I have to reevaluate. Great, that's science.
Right.
He reevaluates and he goes, maybe I have to look into this a little bit more, do more research. He did, and now he's changed his mind. You're allowed to change your mind. Did you know that? You're allowed to change your mind. You don't have to stay in the same camp your entire life.
Right.
And he did. He changed his mind. And I think this is powerful because this video is very short. Very sweet, very to the point. And I'm not saying it's going to just make people instantly change their mind. I think it might, though, make some people go, whoa, he changed his mind. He's pretty smart. Maybe I should take another look at this.
I'm going to be a little bit more negative on this.
All right.
I think that most people who don't believe in climate change are not looking at it in the rational sense of, oh, well, once the CO2 gets to a certain level, that must mean that the oceans aren't absorbing it, right? He was still... Even though he denied climate change, he was approaching it from a bit more of a scientific way of looking at it, which was like, oh, I do know that the CO2 is a problem, but I think it's just going to screw up the oceans and that the plants could absorb it.
Could be a good out for a lot of people, though. They could say, I thought the same thing he did, so I guess I was wrong.
It's true, but I think that a lot of these people who want to disagree with climate change are not looking at it from the scientific perspective. They're not saying, well, I believe in science and therefore I will listen to all things. They're saying, I read this one study that said that climate change wasn't real because of some ridiculous reason, and I'm going to, I am never going to change my mind. And even if I lose that one, I'm going to find an even worse and crazier idea.
But historically, you can point to a lot of things that have happened in the past few decades that have actually changed majorly, where people actually did change their minds. I mean, if we look at gay marriage, gay rights, if we look at civil rights, if we look at smoking, I mean, if we look at a lot of things that you'd say, like, it's never going to change, no one's going to change their mind. And then people start to see data and change their mind. So I don't know. I'm just saying this might be another tool in your arsenal. If you're looking for just a short thing to share with somebody, just send it on to them. Maybe it'll change your mind.
It won't change their mind. But here's what it will. Here's what it will do.
It might get them working on it.
Here's what it'll do. It will. It's just another chip in the armor.
It's a good chip though, because if you send your relative a 2-hour documentary, they're not going to watch it.
Right. They will watch this.
Right.
It is going to be. It's a little chink. A little.
Little footholds.
Little foothold for more things to come. I think that it is a great opening move. I think it is a great first shot. I think it's, definitely a good one to lead on, but I don't think that it's going to convince anybody. They're going to probably be like, that guy's an idiot, blah, blah, right? Like, and if it doesn't work, that's your cue to be like, okay. I honestly, I think that you're going to waste more energy trying to convince these people than you are going to be to go out into the world, find other people who are like maybe on the fence or aren't doing anything. They're like, I believe in climate change, but I'm going to keep eating beef and driving my gas-powered pickup truck, and
I don't know.
Keeping the lights on.
I've been alive longer than you. I've had opportunity to change a few minds here and there, and I know that sometimes it just takes time. People need time to have heard it from a bunch of different places, and then they finally one day, just the last straw, something pushes them over to be like, I should think that over again.
True, but I think that
it's usually someone in their lives that is the important factor.
And that's the thing with the changes that we've seen in civil rights and gay marriage is I think that it really takes someone in their life to change their mind.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. You are that person
It's
probably
true.
in their life. You're probably you're the nephew or the son or somebody that's important in their life. And so even though they dismiss you out of hand 9,000 times, at some point it might be that some little argument starts to stick.
Right, but
So don't give up. Don't listen to him.
And
Don't give up.
But don't waste your time.
Sure.
Don't exhaust yourself. Don't depress yourself.
Yeah.
Keep
your strength up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less on them, more on people who will listen and who will change and care.
Yeah. Check this out. You remember that back in January 22nd of 2018, there was a accident with the Model S that crashed into a parked fire truck on the 405.
Familiar, right? It sounds like we've already talked about this
We did.
before.
We talked about it.
Yes.
But now the NTSB has come out with their final report, and it only took them 19 months.
19 months. Okay.
Okay. So it was a 47-year-old driver. He had been in 6 previous accidents, and I want to stop right there.
And he died, huh?
Nope. He walked away from this crash. So
wait, so why were they?
we all know why the NTSB was involved.
Oh.
Because first of all, there's lots of cars that have autopilot-like software.
He didn't die.
He didn't die. He walked away. Nobody
walked
died.
away.
Nobody died.
He was uninjured.
Uninjured. He walked away
From the crash.
He had some bagel stain and a little coffee stain because he had been eating a bagel and drinking coffee.
Wait.
But other than that, he was fine.
So
there's more.
Okay.
So the first part I want to bring up is that he'd been in 6 previous accidents, and he's 47 years old. So assume he started driving when he was like 16 or 18 or something.
Yeah.
That meant that, an accident every about 5 years, right?
I've been in 0 accidents,
Right.
and I'm 25, and I've been driving for about 10 years.
Yeah, I've been in one accident where a deer came out and hit my car.
Yeah, and I was.
You were in the car. I don't
was
think
there.
we could have avoided that one.
I didn't even see the deer.
Right, he just ran out.
Right. That's not a car accident in
Right.
hitting
Anyway,
another car.
I'm not saying, people get into accidents, but if you're in 6 previous, not including this one, accidents, that's a lot of accidents. So this guy is accident prone.
So
Now,
you can get like 3 speeding tickets, and they'll take away your license, or you'll have to go in some
it depends, yeah. Yeah, usually.
But 6 accidents, and they're totally cool with that.
Well, you're paying a lot in insurance. I would not want to pay his premiums.
And
But
he bought an S. That's wow.
So he bought a used Model S, a 2014 used Model S, and he had only had it for about 6 months prior to the accident. He had never owned an electric car before, and he learned about autopilot from the used car dealer. He did not read the manual. Okay, so that's part of it. Now,
it's funny because they couldn't have not included the manual in the car because it's
always in the
literally
car.
part of the car.
So he was drinking coffee and eating a bagel. He admits that. But there was a witness right next to his car who, in a signed statement, said that he was also looking down at what would appear to be a phone. But putting that aside.
It's impossible, though. How are you eating a bagel, drinking a coffee, and on your phone? Impossible.
Can't be done. From the NTSB report, it said, although the driver stated that he was looking forward, he was unable to see the fire truck in time enough to avoid the crash. So he's basically, his own account is that he was looking forward. He was in autopilot, but he was looking forward, and he did not see the fire truck in time enough to avoid the crash, even though he was going about 20 miles an hour at the beginning before the car sped up. Now, here's what happened. He was in autopilot. Someone pulled out and moved to the next lane.
Because there was a fire truck
Because there was a fire truck in the lane, revealing some space for the car. The car tried to fill that space quickly by speeding up and sped up to about, I think it was 35 miles an hour when it hit the fire truck. So he was going that slow. It wasn't like he was going highway speeds. This was traffic. So he's going 20 miles an hour. He's paying attention, he says, but he doesn't see a fire truck. Okay, so my argument here is the NTSB blames the driver and autopilot. Don't blame autopilot.
Right.
The driver was driving the car. It's his fault.
Right. By definition, autopilot is never at fault. And you might be saying, that's cheating. It's not cheating. The driver is supposed to be the driver of the car. That's the whole point. It's written into the manual of the car.
Now, NTSB had 19 months to make this report, and yet there's so many errors in the report. I don't even have time for all of them. One of them is that they said that it was Thursday, January 22nd, 2018. Well, that wasn't a Thursday.
It was Monday.
The other thing is they say that he gave his statement to NTSB on January 22nd, even though he gave it on the 26th. So, I mean, you got your dates wrong. Next, they print this, which shows you the vehicle control during the trip. And one of the things they state is that his hands were off for certain periods of time. Well, even Tesla doesn't know when your hands are on or off the wheel. All it knows is whether you gave enough torque to
the steering wheel.
Right. It doesn't know if your hands are sitting there on the wheel, just complacent.
There's no sensor for that. And so when they show it in autopilot and the hands were off the wheel for 99.6% of the 8 minutes and 43 seconds that he was in autopilot, it's like, that's how autopilot works. It's like, because it's only going to give you that prompt for you to put your hands on the wheel, and then you only need to torque the wheel for a quarter of, milliseconds, and it'll say, okay, input was found.
Yeah,
so clearly, he was using autopilot.
He's at fault. Whether he was not eating a bagel, whether he was paying full attention, he was at fault. If he wasn't paying attention, he was at fault.
Right.
Autopilot had nothing to do with this because he should have been driving the car and he didn't do it correctly. So NTSB, shame on you guys because you took that many months to give us a riddled with problems report that doesn't accurately tell us anything.
Right.
And that shows you, I think, what's going on here. It's more FUD. They wanted to somehow give this more uncertainty and doubt about driving a Tesla.
Right. And it works because people are like, oh, is that the one that got in the car crash?
Oh.
That's why it took 19 months. They're like, we're just going to keep this report. It's going to be up on the shelf whenever you guys need it.
Yep.
We'll pull it down.
Is this the right time to move the stock?
Oh, right now? Okay, we'll bring it down. Here's the report.
Yep.
And news story. Boom.
Yep.
Stock price. Boom.
It's what we talked about.
Simple.
We talked about this months ago. We said that Tesla's going to be in this stock price plateau for a while for no apparent reason.
Right.
And then it's going to bust out. And I mean, this is fitting my idea perfectly.
Right.
There's no reason for it to be this low right now, but it's just sitting here churning along at 220, for no reason. And then finally, it's going to bust out.
Yep.
That's just stock advice that you shouldn't take from people on the internet.
All right, let's talk about the Porsche.
Yeah, this is
the Porsche Taycan.
Yes.
Taycan has come out from Porsche, and we're going to talk a lot about it on
In depth
Friday.
Yeah.
So you're going to be hearing that.
Yeah, but check this out. This is Shay Holbrook, and she launched the car on the Hornet,
which is an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. So, first question.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
when I get a car, the first thing I like to do is
take it on the aircraft carrier,
my local aircraft carrier,
and I see if I can drive it off the end. And if
sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
That's how you know if it's a good car.
All my good cars have stopped before the end.
Okay, I get the optics of it.
Sure.
Is it is the aesthetic of it being very powerful, very cool, very macho because it's on an aircraft carrier, and you know what goes on aircraft carrier? Jets that are very fast. They go. They get the jets get launched off the aircraft carrier by the aircraft carrier.
With a catapult.
Right? It has a catapult in it. The jets aren't so powerful that they can just go right off the. That no, they can't. They can't do that. That's the aircraft carrier doing that.
Here's my little problem with this video. Shay Holbrook does a fine job, and then at the end of the video, the condescending male character, who I don't know who he is, he's like the
nice job, kiddo.
He's like the top, in Top Gun, the guy that is the commander.
No idea. Yeah,
it sounds like why was he necessary to talk down to her at the end?
Good job, kiddo.
What is the point of Porsche doing this? They could have done this in a parking lot. They could have taken some chalk and shown this is what the aircraft carrier size is, and then they could have done a nice safe drive on a parking lot. But no, they had to do it on the Hornet. How old is she?
She's 29 years old.
She's just a kiddo.
Just 29. Almost 30.
I don't know, it's just sickening.
Kiddo.
Right. You know what else is sickening? Check this out.
Well, the humanitarian crisis in the Bahamas is growing increasingly dire. Almost a week after Hurricane Dorian made landfall, the death toll now stands at 43. It's expected to rise significantly. Food, water, and other supplies are rapidly running out. More than 1,000 people evacuated from the Caribbean nation arrived on a cruise ship in Florida today. Errol Barnett reports on the recovery effort from Grand Bahama.
It was a 3-hour wait for fuel this morning at one of the few working gas stations on Grand Bahama Island.
That's what we've been doing since Dorian left the Bahamas.
CBS News also witnessed long lines outside Freeport banks and grocery stores.
So where are you trying to get to?
All the way to East End, McLeanstown.
All right.
It seems everybody needs some form of help. Seeing that we were heading east to the hardest hit areas, Leroy Glinton asked if he could hitch a ride. His home, he tells us, is barely standing.
How long do you think it will take to rebuild?
A couple of years.
It'll take a long time.
Yeah.
In Freetown, we saw homes demolished. In High Rock, named for being the highest point on the island, all town services obliterated. And outside this cemetery, a casket lay in the Caribbean sun.
The whole town is wiped out.
Marcia Russell Grant, who evacuated ahead of the storm, is trying to get home.
What do you expect to see?
I expect to see total devastation, but we see some walls of our house still up, so we're hoping that there's something we can salvage.
We then came across this Equinor oil complex, also battered by the hurricane.
This is the Stat Oil facility. You can see domes on these structures, and on those structures, the domes were completely removed by Hurricane Dorian. Oil all around us, and the smell is pungent.
In a statement to CBS News, Equinor Oil says it is safeguarding the environment and has not identified any oil on beaches and has not observed leakage of oil from its terminal to the sea.
Now, a security official here checked our press credentials and said we're free to walk around inside, but that we do so at our own risk. The widespread contamination is evident, and it's just one more aspect of recovery for the Bahamian government to address. Rena?
Errol Barnett in Grand Bahama. Thank you, Errol.
A hurricane hits, and this is we see this time and time again after a hurricane is hit. No one can get anything, right? You can't get supplies of any type. Grocery stores are all either knocked out or emptied. In this case, gas stations don't have electricity usually or have any gas, so you can't get gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been a problem.
Then the second problem is you have big, enormous, like I mean, and I've driven past these things before, but I don't really get a good sense of their scale because my brain is only...
What are we talking about?
The giant oil tanks.
Oh, the giant oil tanks.
These gigantic oil tanks with the roofs missing and the oil spilled all over the ground. You're building them in the Bahamas. Yeah. What were you thinking?
Right.
I mean, I guess you could ask the question about all the buildings in the Bahamas. I mean, obviously there are reasons for
No, this is such a human problem. Oh, I'm going to build my house to the standard of a beautiful sunny day, and then be just like, whoa, what happened? I came back to my house after that windy day or that snowy day, and it's been ruined. Like, build your house to the worst possible day. And same thing with oil tanks. Build them to the highest possible standards.
I can understand with the homes thing because the Bahamas is not like a super wealthy country.
Sure. But when it gets rebuilt, here's the thing. Make them rebuild to the highest possible standards. I know it will cost more money. I know to put the extra work, it'll cost more money. That's where the money should be put so that those houses stay put in the next hurricane, which is going to hit.
And the next hurricane will not
do as
much damage because most of the buildings will be left standing.
Right.
And if you're building a gigantic oil tank, make sure that it's rated for a Category 7 hurricane. Like
this goes back to the regulations. Why are they allowed to tell us, oh, everything's fine, we checked and everything's fine, nothing got into the ocean?
Go in there at your own risk.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't see any cleanup effort going on.
No.
This is a giant oil corporation who could have resources there at the drop of a dime. Right. Were they there? No. Why? Because they don't care.
They don't want to drop a dime on that.
Exactly.
Not a dime because, we'll take care of that.
Did you hear what that reporter said?
Yeah.
It's the stench. He said it was obvious that there was contamination, and yet their statement is, don't worry about it, everything's fine.
And it's a fire hazard.
Yeah.
It's covered with oil.
Yeah.
And you can catch that stuff on fire.
Yeah. So, I mean, a hurricane comes along, pulls the top off your oil tanks, spreads oil everywhere, and then you get to write a letter and go, everything's fine, don't worry.
I can't write a letter to fix any of my problems. I can't be like, don't worry about me not paying my taxes.
Do you realize that after a hurricane and there's pictures of like a solar field with some solar panels broken, and it's always the story is run like, oh, solar doesn't really work because hurricanes ruin them.
Right.
Well, you know what? Hurricanes ruin your frickin' oil tanks too.
Right. And the solar field
didn't hurt anybody.
It didn't ruin the entire.
Right.
It didn't soak the ground in oil. You don't have to now scrape off all that topsoil and bring it somewhere else to just sit there because it's now contaminated. Right. And the laws of entropy mean that it'd be really hard to get the oil out of it.
Well, here's the thing. After a devastating hurricane like this, if you showed up with piles and piles of solar panels on the back of a truck, you could teach the local people how to put them together and onto things. You could start powering things with batteries and solar and start to get things back to normal.
Why bring them there? Put them in a bunker. Just have everyone know how to use solar panels. Or everyone gets 3.
But you know what? We've shown time and time again that you can mount them outdoors properly and they won't be affected by hurricanes.
That's true as well.
It's not that hard. You just spend a little more money to mount them properly. Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We had a lot to get off our chest today.
Right. We had some laughs. We
had some sorrow.
We had some sorrow. Such is the nature of life,
Yes.
isn't it? But thank you so much for coming along with us. Thank you so much for watching this show. Because like you guys the best. Like, when we do Tesla Time News, we're doing it for you. That's who we're doing it for. And then we were like,
well, and for the planet.
And for the planet, but like
we need people to do stuff about it.
People didn't exist, we'd be like, wow, we're screwed. Let's go into the oil business. I'm serious. Like, we're both pretty smart, and we would just be like,
in the oil business? I don't think so.
We'd be in whatever would make us the most money. We would just
really?
Be like,
so it's this or the most money?
Look, if you guys didn't exist, I would have absolutely no faith in humanity whatsoever.
Wow.
And I would be like, well, we're screwed. And I'm just gonna live my life like YOLO. Like that would be there's no other logical.
They're the fine line between you and YOLO. Wow.
Look, luckily you people exist, and you always have existed. It's not like you just were summoned out of the ether one day.
Unless
but
they're
like
in a simulation.
But I never got into contact with enough of you, right? There was some people, and we'd meet them and we'd be like, wow, that guy was great. This is super cool. And then we would go back to our lives and just deal with the rest of everyone and everyone who didn't care. They're like, well, but this car is so great. And you're just like, I don't know. I'm serious. Like, there would be no hope if it weren't for you guys. So thank you for being who you are and doing what you're doing, and keep doing it, because please keep doing it. There's no way we're getting out of here without you guys.
See you next week.